Hello, 10th day of 30 days reading challenge. Book The Republic by Plato. Page number 287. Each group spent 7 days in a meadow, and on the eighth day they had to get up and go on a journey. On the fourth day of that journey, they came to a place where they could look down from above on a straight column of light and stretched over the whole of heaven and earth, more like a rainbow, more like a rainbow than anything else, but brighter and more pure. After another day, they came to the light itself, and there, in the middle of the light, they saw the extremities of its bond stretching from the heavens. For the light binds the heaven like a cable, grinding a tire and holds its entirely revolution together. From the extremist hangs the spindle of necessity, by means of which all the revolutions are done. Its stem and hook are of adamant, whereas in its core adamant is mixed with other kinds of material. The nature of a hor- horror was this. It, its shape was like that of an ordinary horror, but from what Earth said, we must understand its structure as follows. It was as if one big ball had been made hollow by being thoroughly scooped out, with another smaller hole closely fitted into it like nested boxes. And there was a third hole inside the second, and so on, making the eight holes all together, lying inside one another, with their rims appearing as a circus from above, while from the back they formed one continuous hole surround, around the spindle, which was driven through the center of the earth. The first or outside hole had the widest circular rim, that of the sixth as second in the width. The fourth was third, the eighth was fourth, the seventh was fifth, the fifth was sixth, the third was seventh, and the second was eighth. The rim of the largest was spangled. That of the seventh was the brightest. That of the eighth took its color from the seventh shining on it. The second and a fifth were about equal in brightness, or more than the others. The third was the whitest in color. The fourth was rather red, and the sixth was second in whiteness. The whole spindle turned at the same speed, but as it turned, the inner spheres gently revolved in one direction, opposite to that of the whole. Of these inner spheres, the eighth was the fastest. Second come came the seventh, sixth, and fifth, all that at the same speed. It seemed to them that the fourth was third in its speed of revolution. The fourth and third, and the second, fifth. The spindle itself turned on the lap of necessity, and up above on each of the rims of the circle stood a siren, who accompanied its revolutions, uttering a single word, a single note, and a concord of the eight notes produced a single harmony. And there were three other beings sitting at equal distance from one another, each on a throne. There were the Fates, the daughters of necessity, Lachis, Clotho, and Atropos. They were dressed in white and garlands in their head, and they sang to the music of the siren. Lachi sang of the past, Clotho of the present, and Atropos of the future. With her right hand, Clotho touched the circumference of the spindle and helped it turn, but left off doing so from time to time. Atropos did the same to the inner ones, and latches helped both motions enter, one with one hand and the one with the other. When the souls arrived at the light, they had to go to Lachi's right away. There, a speaker arranged them in order, took from the lap of the Lachis a number of lots and a number of models to live, mounted a high pulpit, and spoke to them. Here is the message of Lacharis, the maiden daughter of necessity. Inferior souls, this is the beginning of another cycle that will end in death. Your daemon or guardian spirit will not be assigned to you by law. You will choose him. The only who has the first lot will be the first to choose a life to which he will then be found by necessity. Virtue knows no master. Each will possess it to a greater or less degree, depending on whether he values or disdains it. The responsibility lies with the one who makes the choice. The God has none. When he had this, the speaker threw the lots among all of them, and each with the expectation of her who was not allowed to choose, picked up the one that fell next to him. In the lot it made clear to the one who picked it up, where in order he would get to make his choice. After that, the models of lives were placed on the ground before them. There were far more of them than there were souls present, and there were all of all kinds. For the lives of animals were there, as well as all kinds of human beings. There were trainees among them, some of which lasted throughout life, while others ended halfway through in poverty, exile, and beggary. There were lives of famous men, some of whom were famous for the beauty of their appearance, others of their strength or athletic powers, others still for their high birth and virtue or excellence of their ancestor. And there were also lives of men who were not famous for many of these things. And the same for lives of women. But the arrangement of the soul was not included in the model because the soul is inevitably altered by the different lives it chooses. But all the other things were there, mixed with each other and with wealth, poverty, sickness, health, and the states intermediate to them. Now it seems that it is here, glucon, that a human being faces the greatest danger of all. And because of this, each of us must neglect all other subjects and be most concerned to seek out and learn those that will enable him to distinguish the good life from the bad and always to make the best choice possible in every situation. He should think over all the he should think over all the things we have mentioned and how they jointly and severally determines what a virtuous life is like. The way he will look, what the good and bad affect the beauty, and beauty will affect that way he will know what the good and bad effects of beauty are when it is mixed with wealth, poverty, and a particular state of soul. He will know the effects of high or low, private or ruling office, physical strength or weakness, ease or difficulty in learning. and all the things that are either naturally part of souls or are acquired, and he will know that they achieve when mixed with one another thing. And from all this, he will be able to considering the nature of the soul, to reason out which life is better and which worse, and to choose accordingly, calling our life verses if it leads the soul to become more unjust, better if it leads the soul to become more just, and ignoring everything else. We have seen that this is the best way to choose whether in life or death. Hence, we must go down to Hades, hold the adamantine determination, the belief that this is so, lest it lest we be dazzled there by wealth and other such evils, rush into tyranny or some other similar courses of action, do irreparable evils and suffer even worse ones. And we must always know how to choose the mean in such a life and how to avoid either of the extremes as far as possible, both in this life and in all those beyond it. This is the best way that a human being become happiest. Then our messenger from the other foot reported that a speaker spoke as follows: there is a satisfactory life rather than a bad one available, even for the one who comes last, provided that he rationally chooses it rationally and lives it seriously. Therefore, let not the first be careless in his choice, nor the last discouraged. He said that when the speaker had told them this, the one who came up first to choose the greatest journey. In his holy and greed, he chooses it without adequate examination and even noticed, among other evils, he was fated to eat his own children as a part of it. When he examined it, desire the life he had chosen. However, he beat his breast and yawned his choice, and ignoring the warning of the speaker, he blamed chance, diamonds, or guardian spirit, and everything else for these evils but himself. He was one of those who had come down from heaven, having lived his previous life under an ordinary constitution, where he had participated in virtue through habit and without philosophy. Broadly speaking, indeed, most of those who were caught out in this way were those who had come down from heaven and who were untrained in suffering as a result. The majority of those who had come up from the earth, on the other hand, having suffered themselves and seen others suffer, were in no rush to make their choices. Because of this, and because of the chance of the lottery, there was an interchange of good and evil for most of the soul. However, if someone pursues philosophy in a sound manner when he comes to live here on earth, and if the lottery does not make him one of the last to choose, then given that R has reported about the next one, it looks as though not only he be happy here, but his journey from here to there and back again won't be long along the rough underground path, but along the smooth heavenly one. Said that the way in which the souls choose their lives was sight worth seeing, since it was beautiful, funny, and surprising to watch. For the most part, their choice depends on the character of their former life. For example, he said that he saw the soul that had once belonged to Orpheus choosing a swan's life because he hated the female because of his debt at their hands, and so was unwilling to have a woman conceive and give birth to him. Also, the soul of Thymris, choosing the life of a nightingale, a son choosing to change over to human life, and other musical animals doing the same thing. The 20th soul chooses a life of a lawyer. This was the soul of Ajax, son of Telamon. He avoided human life because he remembered the judgment about the armor. The next soul was that of the Agamemnon, whose suffering also made him hate the human. So he changed to the life of an eagle. Atalanta had been assigned a place near the middle, and when he saw great honors being given to a male athlete, he chooses his life, unable to pass them. After her, he saw the soul of Epius, the son of Panopus, taking on the nature of craftsman. And very close to last, he saw the soul of the ridiculous Therites, clothing itself as a monkey. Now it chanced that the soul of the Oedipus got to make its choice last of all, and since memory of his former suffering had relieved its love of honor, it went around for a long time looking for the life of a private individual who did his own work, and with difficulty it found one lying of somewhere neglected by others. He chooses it gladly and said that he would have made the same choice even if he had been first. Still, other souls changed from animals to human beings or from one kind of animal to another, with unjust people changing into the wild animals and just people into the tame ones, and all sort of mixtures occurred. After all the souls had chosen their lives, they went forward to the laches in the same order in which they had made their choices, and she assigned to each a diamond it had chosen as a guardian of its life and fulfiller of its choice. This diamond first led the soul under the hand of Plato as it turned a revolving spindle to confirm the fate that the lottery and its own choice had given it. After receiving her touch, he led the soul of the spinning spinning of Atropos to make what had been spun irreversibly. Then, without turning around, they went from there under the throne of necessity, and when all of them had passed through, they traveled to the plain of forgetfulness in burning, choking terrible heat, for it was empty of trees and earthly vegetation, and there beside the river of unheeding, whose water no vessel can hold. They camped, for night was coming on. All of them had to drink a certain measure of this water, but to choose who were not saved by the reason drank more than that. As each them drank, he forgot everything and went to sleep. But around midnight there was a clap of thunder and an earthquake, and they were suddenly carried away from there, this way and that, up to their birth, like shooting star. Or himself was forbidden to drink from the water. All the same, he did not know how he had come back to his body, except that waking up suddenly he saw himself lying on the fire at dawn. And so Rukon, his story wasn't lost but preserved, and it would save us if we were persuaded by it, for we would then make a good crossing of the rivers of forgetfulness, and our soul wouldn't be defiled. But if we are persuaded by me, we will believe that the soul is immortal and able to endure every evil and every good, and we will always hold to the upward path, practicing justice with reason in every. The way we will be friends both to ourselves and to the cause while we remain here on earth and afterwards, like victors in the games who go around collecting their prizes. We will receive our rewards. Hence, both in this life and on the 1,000 year journey we have described, we will do well and be happy.